10 years ago, Xbox Live Arcade was home to one of the most beloved indie games of all time, Fez. But I have to confess, I didn't play it until recently.
Sacre bleu, how could you? It is a classic! And such a wonderful art style too.
I know, but I corrected that. And let me tell you, 10 years after its launch, Fez absolutely holds up as a modern classic. For my money, that's due to a moderate design philosophy. Let me explain. I had an idea of how to talk about Fez before I played it. I wanted to talk about minimalist game design, but that's not accurate here. Minimalist design is more akin to Thomas Was Alone and its 2D platforming. Maximalist design is, well, you know it when you see it. Moderate design, then, falls between these two ends of the bell curve, and that's where Fez proudly stands.
I have heard it said that things right in the middle are the hardest to talk about.
That's often the case. And to be clear, all of these different design philosophies are perfectly acceptable. They just require different strategies to succeed. Fez is able to achieve greatness by sitting right in the moderate middle. Because of this, its inspirations stand out, and its twists have an even greater impact. Kotaku interviewed Fez creator Phil Fish back in 2009, a few years before the game was released. Fish wasn't the only developer of the game, but he did consider it, quote, a love letter to an alternate past childhood. One that was different from, but not unlike, his own. Fish grew up playing games like Mario, and Zelda, and Tetris. Those are all mentioned in the interview, and their influence is clearly felt in his work. It starts at the very beginning of the game, when our hero Gomez wakes up in his bedroom. That poster on the wall might look familiar. It's the title screen for the very first Legend of Zelda, and it tells you right off the bat that you're bound for an adventure. Once Gomez leaves his village, your cubic companion drops a pretty on-the-nose line to reinforce those Zelda vibes.
Hey, listen!
But direct references aren't the only way to celebrate the things you love. Fez also borrows some of Zelda's mechanics. Zelda games are far from the only ones to include keys and locked doors. But the idea of any key in the game working on any door in the game is something that you can easily attribute to Zelda 1. Chests aren't unique to Zelda either, but the stinger that Fez plays when you open one sure does sound familiar. Block puzzles, bombable walls, and secrets behind waterfalls further reinforce Fish's love for Zelda, but that's not the only game that inspired Fez. The Super Mario 64 vibes are strong too, as your main task is to collect cubes a la Mario 64 stars. They can be found as a whole, or assembled from 8 smaller cube bits, much like Mario's 8 red coins. And the total number of cubes? 64.
Ah, the same number as the Nintendo. And the same number of rooms we have here in the hotel.
Right, so that one could easily just be a coincidence, but Fez knows what it's doing. There's a reason it fake crashes on you several times. Numbers aside, the Mario 64 influence was palpable as I climbed this lighthouse interior in one of the early game zones. Major Whomp's Fortress vibes. The cube doors in the game's central chamber are very similar to Mario's star doors, and this pipe to the sewers is rather blatant. The Tetris influence takes a little longer to come into play. We'll talk more about this in a moment, and a reminder of the spoiler warning I gave you in the intro, but Fez is full of secret codes. One of those is the Tetramino sequence. T-blocks, Z-blocks, and squares are all used to open secret doors and spawn some of the all-important anti-cubes. Inputting these codes is a mix of moving Gomez and rotating the game world. Fez takes cues from both the aesthetics and mechanics of Mario and Zelda, and it does the same thing for Tetris. Rotating and moving is the method of control for that game. By inputting these secret Tetramino codes, you're mimicking those same inputs. So what does moderation mean for all this influence from other games? Well, we can plot it out on another bell curve. On one side, there are no references or Easter eggs at all, just a straight game with no nods to anything that came before, as if it were designed in a vacuum. On the other side is an overabundance of references, or ones that the developers deliberately draw attention to. Your parody games like Conker's Bad Fur Day fit in here. Again, these aren't bad, they're simply different philosophies. By being right in the middle, Fez strikes a balance. There aren't too many references or borrowed gameplay elements, just a comfortable amount. You don't have to notice the Zelda poster to get the feeling that you're about to embark on a grand adventure, but it's there for the keen eye to see. You don't have to realize that you're collecting cubes across different courses Mario 64 style, but that might be why it feels familiar.
Home sweet home, as they say. And if you can't be in your real home, we'll take great care of you here in one of our luxurious suites.
Fez might borrow elements from other games, but its twists are all its own. 10 years later, solving puzzles and decoding all the secret messages in this game still feels so satisfying. Just like the Zelda poster in Gomez's room, the hints that there's more to this world happen right away. The villagers comment on 2D shapes and the idea of perception informing reality. They'll always exist on this 2D plane, but you won't. Climb to the top of the village and you'll receive the titular Fez, enabling you to rotate this world, revealing its true 3D nature. Every screen consists of 2D side-scrolling platforms, yes, but the world is laid out like faces of a cube, enabling you to change your perspective and shift those same platforms. The moment you receive the Fez, this becomes your main gameplay thrust going forward, and it is used so cleverly. Grabbing and spinning bolts like manual lifts is a fun way to reach new heights, and there's no end to the puzzles that require shifting perspectives. One of my favorites involves rotating all of these skulls to face the same direction. Doing so opens a secret room where you can grab an anti-cube, a collectible which serves as a twist on its own. You see, earlier I said Fez has 64 total cubes. Mathematically, that's half true. 32 are regular cubes, and the other 32 are anti-cubes. Discovering that anti-cubes even exist is a bit of a shock when it first happens. You don't have a spot in your inventory for them until you find one. It's totally possible to finish the game, or at least get its first ending, by only collecting the 32 regular cubes with some good honest platforming. Fez first grabs your attention by introducing the rotation mechanic. But upon discovering the anti-cubes, you'll realize that this world is hiding so much more.
I do not wear my glasses on the job, but I think I saw one of those secret codes you were talking about.
Yes, you did. Many of the anti-cubes are tied to the aforementioned Tetris language, but that's not the only secret code in the game. Fez's biggest secret, if you've ignored the spoiler warnings, that's on you at this point, is its alphabet. What appears to be a collection of random symbols or angular gibberish is in fact a fully formed series of letters and numbers. This one says warp, and it's appropriately placed next to the central warp gate. This message says, "Trapped in a Fez factory. Please send help," which adds flavor to the world and also gives me a bit of anxiety about whoever left it there. Fez is full of these messages, some hidden, some proudly broadcast on big neon signs. Realizing that there's a cipher behind all these strange symbols is a revelatory moment, and even that isn't the last of the game's twists. The final one comes after you finish the game for the first time. Unless you happen to know some particular puzzle solutions already, you simply cannot collect 100%, or rather 200%, of the game's items on your first run. Upon restarting in the village, you'll make your way back to the top. But you're already wearing a Fez, so what could the accessory be this time? The answer is a pair of sunglasses straight out of the Deal With It meme. Once again, Fez is in on the joke here. You've already been through several fake crashes, and the ending you just saw had a full-on 2001 A Space Odyssey color sequence. This game knows it's pulling one over on you, and those sunglasses let you in on the joke. There's an entire first-person perspective to this world too. First you learned about the 3D layout, then you discovered the anti-cubes, then you began to understand the Tetris codes and secret language, and now you're free to look around the entire world at your leisure, seeing its true form and all the other little secrets it's been hiding. In fact, it's the only way to see some of those important Tetramino symbols.
Sorry you've been talking about this so much, I had to jump into some Tetris 99. Please carry on.
We can plot these progressive twists on the bell curve as well. On one end is, again, a straight adventure with no twists. Do your quests, go from point A to point B with the same mechanics, and you're out. The other extreme is a game built with the express purpose of constantly throwing the player for a loop. Think Frog Fractions. Once again, Fez sits comfortably in the middle. There isn't one single twist to surprise you, and there aren't so many that you start to expect it. Instead, there's a perfect amount to give you multiple epiphanies, teaching you more about this world at regular, revelatory intervals. To reiterate one last time, all of these design philosophies are valid, but Fez stands strong because of its moderate direction.
I think I understand now. Oh, you want to send me your junk, huh? Take that!
Actually, speaking of the Switch, Fez is totally playable on that platform now. 10 years after its initial release, it is absolutely worth revisiting. Its influences are clear, but not in your face. The game is still enjoyable even if you don't know what inspired it. And its twists are fun every time they happen. There aren't too many, so you never know when a curveball is coming your way. In these key areas, Fez sits comfortably in the center, not lacking in those things nor overindulging in them. It's in the middle. It's moderate. And for that reason, it's a masterpiece. Play us out, Gomez.
Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what Framework is doing, definitely hit that subscribe button in the middle. It would help me out an awful lot if you do. And if you want to see what we've already cooked up, you can hit that link on the far left. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.